Hey moms, welcome back to my channel. It is Jamie here with Simply Living It, and I'm so excited for today's video. This is something fun, something totally different. I've never done this before, but it is in collaboration with a friend, and what we are doing is taking homeschooling to Google. We are researching or answering some of the most popular Google questions in regards to homeschooling. I found it really interesting what Google had to say about homeschooling and homeschoolers in general. So this is a fun collaboration with Torrie over at her channel, Torrie Nichelle. So if you are looking for another fun homeschooling mama where you can laugh, you can cry, you can find encouragement, and just walk it out together, Torrie has got an awesome channel. If you are looking for a little more encouragement in the homeschool world, be sure and check out her channel when you're all finished up here. So as always, if you do have any questions or any comments, mamas, leave them down in the description box down below. As you know, I am always hanging out down there. So one of the most popular things when you search homeschooling on Google, obviously, is the socialization. That is one of the most popular topics, which just makes me laugh. That is one of the most popular questions on Google is, are homeschoolers, socially awkward? Do homeschoolers get to socialize? Homeschooling and socialization. Do homeschoolers get lonely? Like, there is so many questions revolving this topic, and it just makes me laugh because I feel, you all know how I feel about this. There are a lot of you who are new here, but I feel like my boys are doing just fine when it comes to their social skills. They know how to interact with adults. They know how to interact with other children. They are doing just fine. I feel that it is such a funny topic and that it gets so much attention. It just really makes me laugh. But I think we're just assumed to be people who live under rocks and never ever come out into the real world or something. I'm not really sure. So how do I feel about homeschooling and socialization, homeschooling and social skills? We are very involved in all kinds of different things. So if you just stop for a second and take a look at your life, whether you're a homeschooling mom now or if you're thinking about it, let's stop and think about all the different ways and the different times and places throughout your day that your children are interacting with other people, right? Yes, homeschooling can be lonely. And I think for some people, it can be a very closed off thing. But I think it's all how you look at it. And I do also feel like some of that is in regards to the parents and how they live their life. We are very involved in all kinds of different things. We're involved in a homeschooling co-op. My kids like to play sports. We have a lot of family members, a lot of neighbors. When we go to the bank, my children are interacting with people. When we go to co-op, they're interacting and they're socializing. When we go to the grocery store, if you're involved in church programs, if you are involved in other extracurricular activities, piano lessons, guitar lessons, I think sometimes it just puts homeschoolers in a box, and sometimes people do also. And there's so much more to homeschooling than the huge stereotype that we are under-socialized or, we lack social skills or whatever it might be. So that's just a snippet on how I think and feel in regards to homeschooling and socialization. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next question. Google and homeschooling. So is homeschooling hard? That was one of the other popular questions. And to answer that, I think it takes about 2 seconds. Yes. But what in life isn't hard? You know what I mean? Marriage is hard. Being a mom is hard. Life is hard. Work is hard. Everything we do around us is hard and can be hard. There are challenges with everything. Public school is hard, so I find that to be a kind of a funny question also. Everything in life can be hard, but you push through. You take the good with the bad and you keep trucking with it. And if something isn't working in your homeschool, you change it, right? That's what we do. We know that. We change it up. So the next question that I came across was in regards to homeschooling, was homeschooling in college. Can homeschoolers get into college? And the answer to that obviously is absolutely. And I have read studies that say colleges are actually preferring homeschooled students. So I find that very interesting also. I do have some friends who have children that are in high school and they're already taking college classes. So I think there are a lot of benefits to homeschoolers in the realm of college where they can get into college classes just like the public schoolers. When you're a junior or a senior, they can start taking early college credits. Well, so can homeschoolers. We can do that also. So it might depend on the state that you live in. I'm not sure. I'm just speaking from where we live and what I know here in our state. So can homeschoolers get into college? Absolutely. Google, absolutely. Okay, disadvantages of being homeschooled. That was another thing that came up when I searched homeschooling and disadvantages. So some of the things that Google listed as disadvantages were the cost, socialization, of course, patience, and motivation, which I found all those things to be funny because once again, this is just life stuff, guys. The cost, that all is what you make of it. It can be expensive to homeschool, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. And on the flip-flop, I mean, public school is expensive also. I feel like there are a lot of things that go into consideration no matter whether you choose public school or homeschooled. So I think that's an interesting thing. Socialization is a disadvantage. Google says patience and motivation, lacking motivation to homeschool is a disadvantage, which I think any kid lacks motivation. I don't, there are probably very few kids who wake up to go to school, whether it's homeschool or public school, and they're super excited to do it. There are those, there are those children, just like with anything, who absolutely love it. But I remember when I reached a certain age, going to school was the last thing I wanted to do. And I was public schooled. So I think motivation in anything when you're a kid is like, do I have to do this? I don't want to do it. So I think sometimes, people or Google picks the most funny things to classify under a certain topic. And it's kind of humorous to me. Then again, our homeschoolers socialize, that was brought up again. It says that some are very involved in activities and some are lonely. That's the same with public school. Some public school kids are very lonely. Some public school kids are very involved in activities. So there's really no difference there. Nothing, is set apart. That's just life. In general, that is life stuff, right? That's what I'm seeing. How do you start homeschooling? So homeschooling and beginning, that was another popular question. How do you start homeschooling? So there are a lot of different answers to this question. How did I start homeschooling? I had a friend who was there to kind of guide me and take these steps. I had researched curriculum and kind of just notified the school and let them know our intent to homeschool. And this was when my oldest was in first grade. So that was how we started. I just got the basic supplies that we needed to get started. And then everything kind of spiraled after that. I figured out the laws in the state that we live in, what was required where we live. I figured out some information on different co-ops. I found different moms here on YouTube to help encourage me along the way. So I think that's one of those questions too, that you find your circle, you find a support group of some sort, get involved in a co-op if that's something that you want to do. I think co-op is it's totally a personal preference. So get involved in something if it's what you want to do. Maybe at your church, there are some families who are homeschool families you can connect with. So I think definitely it just depends on what you want out of your homeschool, but the basics to getting started is just figuring out the laws in your state, what's required of you as a homeschool mom, what's required of your children as students, as far as the hours go and the legal side of it all, and find out the curriculum you want to use and just run with it. I think it's pretty simple, guys. It's pretty basic when you chop it all down. It doesn't have to be a super complicated thing. So homeschooling and sports, that's another topic, okay? We went to Google for this and we had homeschooling and sports. I'm assuming it's more along the lines of can homeschoolers play sports? How do they get involved in sports? Well, here where I live, which again, that's what I'm speaking from is, my experience. I know there are homeschoolers who are allowed once they reach a certain age to enter the public school system and play sports through the public school system. And also at my boy's age, we have a rec department and anybody can play on the rec department. And I'm not sure at what grade level that actually switches over to be a public school thing. I want to say 7th or 8th, but I'm not 100% positive. So up until that age, they can still play through the rec department. And then after that, switch over to public school sports, or if you have different homeschooling groups in your area that have their own homeschooling sports programs, which we do have one of those in our area that's all for homeschooling families. So that is an option too. Be sure and check into that if your children are interested in playing sports. And also check with the public schools, because some public schools do allow your children to play sports on their teams. So keep that in mind. So homeschooling and sports, can they play? Yes, they absolutely can. It might depend on where you live, how things are going to look. But from our knowledge here where we're at, we haven't had any issue getting our boys to play sports at all so far. Homeschooling and working. Homeschooling and working, coolest thing ever. they can work whenever they want, whenever they're ready. They can work during the day when most kids are in school. They can do their school in the evening. I feel like it's a very simple thing to juggle. If your child is of working age, they want to work, they have the opportunity to work when other students don't get the opportunity to work because they're in class. So I feel like there are a lot of advantages when it comes to homeschoolers and working when your child is ready, as long as they continue to get their work done when they get home, those types of things. But that you have to take into your own, discretion in your home, how you want that to work. But definitely homeschoolers, I feel, have an advantage of the day shifts when, public schools in session, the homeschoolers can kind of go and pick up those extra shifts and that type of thing if your child is wanting to. So homeschooling and travel, this one I think so awesome. Hello, freedom, right? Homeschoolers can travel. We can travel whenever we want. We don't have to follow any sort of schedule. We don't have to follow any sort of plan or agenda. We get to do what we want when we want, and that is such a freeing thing. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And a lot of times you can hit things off season when you're a homeschooler. You can hit, all the big amusement parks and all these fun beaches and stuff and the pools when everybody else is in school. So it's kind of an awesome little secret. And then homeschooling and working full time. So I'm assuming that's talking, on the perspective of being a parent and trying to homeschool while you're working full time. I think, speaking from my experience, I am a stay-at-home mom, so I don't know what it's like to work full-time necessarily and homeschool, but I think it is a beautiful thing, and I think it's definitely an opportunity. Don't let the fact that you work full-time discourage you from the option to homeschool, because I feel like it's something you can make work. If you work graveyard shift, whatever it looks like in your home, I feel like there's definitely still that option to homeschool, even though you work full-time. If it's in your heart and it's what you want to do. You might homeschool in the evenings instead of homeschooling in the morning. You might homeschool in the afternoon. You might homeschool first thing in the morning, get up early, get it done. I don't know, and I don't know how that will look in your home, but and again, this is just coming from my thoughts and feelings. I am a stay-at-home mom, so I don't know what it's like to work full-time outside of the home and then add homeschooling on top of it. But I do feel like if you maybe get things straightened out, I feel like don't let that discourage you because you work full time. I feel like you could, maybe try and find a way to adjust your schedule to make it work. And when your children are older, they're a little bit more independent and they could maybe do a lesson or two on their own where, the topics that they know how to do. And then you come home and do the subjects you need to do together. I don't know. Just a thought, just my 2 cents, right or wrong, I don't know. That's not something that I have had to deal with so far. So okay, Mom, so that's going to finish it up for this video. I didn't want it to be too crazy long, but I did think it was a fun idea to do this and to kind of dissect Google and what Google has to say about homeschoolers a little bit. Some of them are just funny, random questions that it takes about 2 seconds to figure out, the intention behind that. And some of them are real questions where it's like, hey, can my, common questions maybe new homeschoolers might have. Can my kids play sports? What do I do when it comes time for my kids to get in college? Maybe you're a full-time working mom and you're like, how do I homeschool? Or maybe you're on that journey of how do I even begin to homeschool? There are a lot of resources on Google, but definitely take some of it very lightly. I feel like the socialization thing is and always will be an issue and always will be a topic. I think I've finally gotten to a point in my life where I can let it slide right off my shoulders and not let it bother me like it used to. In my early stages of homeschooling, I definitely let that get to me when people's thoughts and opinions and views on homeschoolers would bleed through. I definitely let that get to me. So I feel like I'm finally in a place where I just own it. This is our life and it's worked great for our family so far. And I do not feel like my kids are missing out. I do not feel like my kids are socially awkward. So maybe that's just because I'm their mom, but I'm just saying. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and be sure and check out Torrie's channel over at Torrie Nichelle. She is so much fun. She's so encouraging. She is just full of energy and encouragement and all of the things. So be sure and check her out. Let her know that I sent you. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you all later in the week. Have a great day, guys.